Sharia law. I'm about to explain this from my perspective as simple as possible. First off, it is not law. It is another set of policies for citizens in areas where they have the majority of the vote, meaning the control of everyone's energy, in which manifests in this reality. So essentially, I want y'all to think of this as a set of policies for HOA. At the end of this video, I'm gonna add another video I previously made explaining what HOAs is and how they even took over America the first time. So check it. Sharia law is no different from the policies we currently have. For instance, speeding over the suggested speed limit. In order for anyone to enforce the policy of you speeding over the suggested speed limit, they will have to literally break the law to enforce the policy. It is unlawful to use emergency lights in a non-emergency situation. So every time you're pulled over, it is a non-emergency situation, meaning they just broke the law to enforce a policy. Now check this. Now y'all remember how the way it was legal to have a slave, but guess what? It is unlawful. So now y'all can look up your own definitions and double check me. Y'all will realize that most policies are negative and all laws are positive that actually protects the people, not the citizens. When people begin to understand the difference between a deputy and the police, it'll be easier to make sense of what I'm saying. But the deputies are elected officials from the public. They got power from the people. That's why they're elected. And they are able to enforce the law and actually make arrests. The police are literally security guards for the state. They were selected, not elected by the people, meaning they have no authority, no real power over us at all, only the citizens. And this is why police target the Black Americans, because we are not citizens, but once they make the arrest on false charges and they place you as a criminal, you now become a citizen under their jurisdiction. You become property of the state. This is the real reason why we always been targeted. So what they're basically doing is the areas they took over, they acting as if it is a HOA. And the rules you have to follow inside the HOA will be the quote-unquote Sharia law, which is a set of policies that really came from the Quran. This is how they was able to get people into office and into enforcement positions. They already know how corrupt the system is and been using it since day one. But they always knew about this plan they're doing right now. So back to the Quran, right? It really means Quran and is actually the spirit of Saturn. This is literally the militant part of religion. This is why they seem so radicalized and ready for war, because they know it's their job to sacrifice for their legion. So I mentioned a long time ago, the real reason Malcolm X was off is because he mentioned that Elijah Muhammad said that he was a modern day Solomon. Solomon is another name for the spirit of Saturn. So the Nation of Islam, which seems like it's for Black people, are actually our worst enemy without us even knowing. It was all a cover-up and to mislead everyone. Because just think about it, all these other Black organizations that are supposed to help Black people, how they never get on the level that they got on and the amount of support that they have, unless it's a part of their sect. And we'll never guess who our main enemy is on our own land. So while the Nation of Islam is basically here converting our people to another legion, religion, that leads to more help in brainwashing, making us feel like we don't belong in our own country, etc. Just about anything to mislead you and drain your energy. As I said plenty of times before, they know more truth than any other race, religion, whatever you want to call it. They know more overall. And that's why they are able to organize the way they're clearly organizing, and they've been doing it for so long to get to the point they're at right now, but covertly. So I said all that to say this. Essentially, America has been freed, and they are here to basically keep the American people enslaved by placing their own system on top of the one that was just broken, that was created by United States Corporation. They have to do all this before the Black Americans wake up and realize that this is our land and we make the rules on our own land. Only then we will feel like they are declaring war on us specifically, and then we will have no choice but to fight back. That's the whole point of them upholding illusions, so we can't see the clear truth. They are literally here on our land saying they are willing to sacrifice themselves for Saturn. Legions. So Sharia law cannot apply to anyone that's not under their jurisdiction. And all their jurisdictions is literally signaling war right now. It's time for people to wake up to determine right from wrong because there's no more choosing sides very soon. And also, I gotta add this because I find it ironic that they're having an uprise at the same time Neptune and Saturn is in transit to Earth. As I said, Saturn is who we call Satan. Neptune is who we call Adam. Neptune is the first full-blown dragon of the underworld, and Saturn is the first half man, half dragon, reptilian. The truth about homeowners associations, also known as HOAs. Although it's clearly in the word, random ass people will associate themselves with your home that you own and you agree to it. It's no different from buying a car or voting. There's a secondary contract that no one pays attention to, and it is registering your property. The difference with the homeowners association is they don't consider you registering it because it's all in the agreements of the quote unquote HOA. Because notice how the way they use the word joining instead of registering. So it's automatically when you purchase a property, a community governed by one as a HOA membership is tied to the property ownership through the property's deed and governing documents. When you buy a home in an HOA community, you automatically become a member, agreeing to the association rules and dues, which is a part of the property's title and restrictions. So I want y'all to really think about that. An HOA places you under their jurisdiction, under their quote unquote private property, which isn't public lands. Now look at it this way. When you buy a car, right, it is completely bought out and it's under your name, and then they trick you into registering it with the state. So technically the state owns your car during that period of the contract. And how I know this and how you should know this is because the state literally has a tag on the back of your car with their signatures. And when you register your car, you agree to the rules of the road specific to the state that you are in. So let's say you didn't have a plate. You know when people be talking about you could travel without a license? That's how it should be in a free world. But we're not in a free world because they believe they have jurisdiction over quote unquote private property that they can put anywhere. So essentially, these people, quote unquote police, look at you as if you are an employee. So they'll enforce their policies on you because you agreed to it. You literally signed your driver's license. Now it gets deeper because you can register your body, as I mentioned earlier, to vote. But people don't realize or even pay attention to people saying that to you. Hey, did you register to vote? Why do you have to register just to make a vote? You see how that don't make sense? But you are registering your body. This is how they're able to control you. Like for instance, they could ask you, not even ask you, tell you to go to jury duty, you know what I'm saying, and tell you not to go to work. And you not get punished because you are registered to the state. They own your body for that period of that contract, including your energy. That's what they're using to vote and to create this reality. Now I want y'all to look at this from a deeper angle. Y'all know how the way I always tell y'all that I'm not a citizen, and most Black Americans aren't. We're not even in the system. This means if you're not a citizen, you do not go by citizens' rules, which is the policies. We only go by the law. So everyone that came from a different country is automatically a citizen, just like you was going to a HOA. They are property of the United States Corporation. So they have to go by the United States Corporation rules, which are the policies. And when the policies are broken, this is when policy enforcement comes through, but we all call them quote unquote police. They are literally private security guards that's out to protect the state's property. And like I just said, these people that are citizens is state property. And you know how the way we get profiled all the time? It's because we are not state property, and what they are doing is coercing us with contracts to register our body to the state. So we are state property, so they can have jurisdiction over us, as in forcing us to be a citizen. At the end of the day, the only people that are allowed to even interact with us is the sheriff deputies because they was elected by the public. That's why they have law enforcement on their vehicles, not policy enforcement, because we only go by the law, but obviously they are corrupt as well. So I said all that to say this. Essentially, it's the same system as everything else. They are becoming the middleman of our own fucking property, bruh, and sliding themselves into contracts so they can steal your property as soon as you break one of their policies, after you done spent all your bread on that house. Even the same thing with cars. You spend all that bread on that car, then they want to take it, although you already paid for it. It's these contracts we gotten so used to and think it's fine. We think that it's okay and how it's supposed to go. It should not go that way, because no one ever takes the time to read the policies and the laws and see the complete difference of what they really are. And the people who we interact with on a daily basis, we don't even know who they are. They are cons, bro. And then you have some that's not, but that's up to you to do the research. And if you don't, you're doomed. You're falling to their traps every time, because they design everything to make sure they'll be able to take it once you mess up. As I always say, we're the ones with energies. They do not have any at all. So we put all the energy out and take all their consequences while they take all the benefits. And that is the system, because once we keep on working and working and working, and we're never getting to where we need to get to, it just keeps going. Like, it will never stop, because we're not getting to the end. It's designed for you not to get to the end. And obviously Pacific people, because of the energy output that we have. So when you be joining them HOAs, look at it like this, that your house is literally in Lebanon, right? A whole nother country, but it's inside of America. But you gotta follow the Lebanon government rules. It's almost like immigration on a small scale, because essentially those quote unquote communities are small countries. Cities, towns, whatever you want to call them. Like, why do y'all think now y'all starting to see all these videos of random security guards with inside of HOAs pulling people over, bro? And got the nerve to try to steal your information to report you to be the third party so they can skim off the top, because they're doing quote unquote like citizens arrest and trying to take you to court because they're mixing the systems up. But essentially, like I say, police officers are literally basically doing the same thing on a larger scale on a city level, when none of them have authority to even pull you over or to even arrest you. Like I just said, they be using citizens arrest. They're using universal laws against us because we don't know them. That's how they coerce us and steal our information and then pull out of our trust account. They're like, that's all they're doing, bro, and stealing from us in all different types of ways. And obviously, this is how they take our property as well. It's all fraud. And another way to control and govern people towards the direction they want you to go. Any type of system that works that way is negative, and no one should ever join it, because essentially it's giving up all your rights, all your freedoms, and all your property. Anyways, I hope y'all picked up what I put down. Y'all know how I keep it. Y'all be gods. Peace. Yo, I think it's time for me to make this video. If you're mentally weak, go ahead and scroll now. So I briefly mentioned this topic about 2 to 3 times in the past, because I already know the outrage behind it is gonna be wild. I've been explaining that we're in the middle of a war, and the reptile gods of the Bible took over Earth and made it with the human women. Also, the image of man, who is not human, mated with the human women also. In turn, man created a god race of humans. The reptiles created a hybrid race of those humans. And we all know them as the Israelites, who is all the other races created from the quote-unquote black people, who are the original humans on Earth. So the reptiles are considered gods because they have a spirit, which is a star. And the larger stars we see, we just call them planets. So the gods of the Bible all have their own planet. I've shown and proved to y'all who the spirit of Venus is, Queen Elizabeth, and her twin brother is Jupiter, we know as King Charles. I made a video, the god of Venus is Lilith, that explains who Queen Elizabeth really is. Also on the bottom, the Antichrist is here, the king of hell. In that, I also explain who Queen Elizabeth is with more proof, and also King Charles. I explain who they are, and all the stories that correlate to these people. Now we have Mars, who is Elon Musk. I made a video called Elon Musk is the god of Mars, proving who he is and his correlating stories, and how he's always destined to save the Israelites, the hybrid humans, hence transhumanism, for survival. Now we have the spirit of Saturn, who I rarely mention because I already know the backlash is gonna be serious. But it's time for the truth. Elijah Muhammad is the spirit of Saturn. If there was anyone in this world to be the greater deceiver and accuser, it would be him, because he's in position to where he is the last one to be questioned. Now check this out. Elijah is considered a highly important prophet for demonstrating the power of God of Israel over false gods. Now remember me telling y'all that Israel is the hybrid humans, but there are humans that is a god race, because they was created by the image of man, which is a fallen angel. That god race of the black people, who are the original humans, are the false gods he's talking about. This is why everyone in the Bible didn't want you to worship any other god. This is why we were held on the bottom this whole time. But y'all all see that. But I want y'all to imagine that Elijah Muhammad used the same name that's out the Bible. It's right here. You can clearly see what he's been doing. But it's about to get deeper. I mean, just think about the ideology that Martin Luther King adopted from him. Martin Luther King was a man that made us believe the American dream that Elijah came up with that made Americans docile and weak. Now, this is a guy that spilled the beans on who Elijah really is. Not too long after he left the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X was seen on a video saying that Elijah told him that he is the modern day Solomon. Solomon is another name for Saturn. And 3 other names y'all may know Saturn as is An, Set, S-E-T, or Satan, which is really Set-an because every word they had to rename themselves but similar so you know who they are. Elijah is the one that written the Quran, which really means Cor-an. As I said, An, which is An, is another name for Saturn. Cor means the central to the existence or character of someone or something. Basically means it brings you closer to An. Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam in March of 1964 because of his doubts of Elijah, mainly because he said he was a modern day Solomon. But they say he was betrayed because him fathering of illegitimate children, of kids he got through the traffic, if you get what I mean. His remarks on JFK, because as I told y'all, he questioned Rothschild's banking system, and he questioned why the Elohim was here. That's why he made his remarks. And it also says he went against the NOI ideology. Just think about that. And I gotta throw this in here. I made a painting of Malcolm X some years ago because I already know the truth. So of course he made it into my collection because he's one of the realest ones to ever exist back in the day. So here's a few things he did after he left the NOI, but was assassinated 11 months after he left in 1965. Obviously, because all the knowledge he possessed and he was going against it with the real knowledge. This is why MLK and JFK eventually joined in with this assassinations. Like, why do y'all think he could make a book called The Father of Mankind? Y'all cool. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Like it literally says it right there. The original man, who I keep telling y'all who was our fallen angels. The ones in America, the black men in America. And the kind of man is the original humans, the male and females that was created in Genesis. We all look alike. We're all black, quote unquote. It's right there, bro. They're literally saying they made those 2 images in their likeness. The hybrid humans, the Israelites. He even mentions the 7th day. Why do y'all think we have 7 days in a week? We are still in that same day. As I always tell y'all, this is Yaqub, this is Jacob, this is God El, the leader of the Elohim, that came here and helped with the Rothschild's banking system. He's on the $1 bill right under In God We Trust. It spells on the money. 13 stars, the 13 families, the 13 colonies. And it doubles as a 6-point star, which is the star David, who is Neptune, Adam, and the star Solomon, who is Saturn, Satan. Why do y'all think he knows so much about UFOs and events that happen outside of this dimension? It could only be because he was on a UFO. He was out of this dimension. And he clearly remembers because his mind didn't get erased like ours did. Satan, who deceives the whole world, he has cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. At the end of the last world, this happened already, and they're trying to repeat the same thing. But the only difference is, Satan been here the whole time. Look around, it's clear as day. I said all that to say this. The Nation of Islam was created by the great deceiver, Satan, that clearly controls this world. He plays both sides and is never questioned. One of his descendants has to currently possess the spirit of Saturn. This is why most of his family was never publicized, and you'll never find out who they are because they know who they are. I mean, just think about it. The Nation of Islam started right after their takeover, which is World War I. It's literally the same war we're in. We never won the second one. It literally means a war of different worlds. The spheres, the planets. Like, how's that organization that supports black people? But yet, black towns and cities is burnt and destroyed. The black people off, and the women, unfortunately, I ain't gotta say it. It's the other races. Not saying it's your fault this time and age, but in the past, they know what they did, which is probably your grandparents on up. They know exactly what happened. I mean, just go look up some videos about how the way people saying they was born in the cave just around 100 years ago. And that's not even long ago. Like I said, it all goes right back to that war. Just before the war, it was a whole different world. And they changed it by controlling us and our minds because we create the reality. So like I said, just ask yourself, how this organization lasts so long, like since 1930, and was never infiltrated or destroyed. That should tell you exactly who he is and what side he's working for. Anyways, y'all know how I keep it. Y'all be guys. Hey.